Fairness has another element around within a team, Kathy, the performance of the individuals, and especially around rewards and recognition, or where accolades are handed out or sort of compliments are given even, there can be a sense of bias, a sense of favoritism. So do you want to explore that a little bit for us?
Yeah, I think as managers, it is our responsibility to be really transparent with the whole team, in fact. And it's not something that should happen occasionally. For example, not something that should happen just before an R&R event or during laurels and so on. But to keep that transparency going throughout, so every member of the team is very clearly aware of where they stand in terms of performance. That's one thing, I think. And to do that regularly without being asked is crucial. The second thing I would say is just in terms of explaining to people in terms of how targets are set. Because sometimes for an employee, it may not be very clear in terms of why someone at the face of it looks like they have an easier productivity target, for example. But then to explain to them that, based on the fact that this person is working on projects that are of higher complexity, therefore their productivity target has been scaled back to allow them to perform well, right? So that explanation, I think, is extremely important. And not just do that as a one-time exercise, but keep reminding people. Another point, I think, in terms of how targets are set is in terms of tenure. People with higher tenure in the business would certainly have higher productivity targets, but making that, again, clear to employees across different tenure buckets to explain to them this is the reason why targets are set that way is critically important.
And we are toying with the idea of stack ranking and really make that super visible that everybody in the team can see themselves and each other. You think that's probably a healthy way to go, Kathy?
Yeah, because it takes away all these questions, right? I mean, to Gladys's point around promotions earlier on, people can see that this is where I stand in terms of productivity, in terms of quality, in terms of the team's KPIs. And if I haven't made even that bare minimum, then I can't really be talking about promotions at that point. So being really, keeping it really open and transparent, I think, takes away a lot of questions, assumptions, speculation from employees.
Or maybe it allows for questions to come, which is healthy.
Could do,
so somebody at the bottom of the mid might decide, actually, I do get all the tough records. And my manager keeps giving me the tough records, therefore I'm close to the bottom. But at least the stack rank allows you to start that conversation.
Correct.
The manager can then look into that, and yes, maybe it's true, and he needs to readjust. Or maybe it's not true. The employee's perception was that they were getting the hard records, but actually they weren't. But at least it allows that question to get asked.
Correct.
And hopefully answered correctly. And the employee, if they're not satisfied, I guess, can go to HR or raise with a BP if they still feel they're not getting a fair shake. So I think it is healthy for all those reasons. It allows all that dialogue to happen.
Sure.
Yeah. And people who are at the bottom of the stack rank, that can induce a little bit of nervousness or anxiety. It doesn't necessarily need to, I guess.
Doesn't need to, I think, because like you said, Con, so it allows them to ask questions to see why am I at the bottom of the pile? And then also to learn from the top performers a little bit more, right? To understand best practices. What do I need to do in order to be able to move up that stack rank? So I think it's very healthy. It's a very healthy conversation, open conversation, if we are able to show people that this is where you are and these are the steps that you need to take in order to move up.
And if everybody's above the kind of average productivity, or they won't be above the average, not everybody will be above the average, but if the whole team is kind of at a really strong level of productivity, being at the bottom actually may not be a problem.
Yeah.
It's probably okay. But clearly if the guy at the top is kind of maybe done double your levels, you got to ask the questions, you got to have a chat with that person, try and understand how they're getting more done more quickly. I guess if you're close to the bottom and that phenomenon is there, you've got a little bit of a duty to give yourself the insights that you need to move up and at least close that gap, is what I would say to those that are at the bottom of the rank. Don't be too far away from those in the middle or the top, and you'll probably be okay.
Correct. Also, I think to know the distance where you are. You may be thinking that I've met all the KPIs, I'm doing good. You may not have visibility into the fact that someone's really hitting it out of the park. So to know that and then, aim to be there, I think it helps. So brings more transparency for sure.